All right, good morning. Welcome to All Falcons. I'm Scott Kennedy. This is my friend and co-host, Nick Kendall. And we're going to talk a little bit of Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, and an impressive road win for the Falcons. We'll talk a little bit about Falcons Cowboys. And then a topic that came up yesterday in our Denver Broncos conversation, as they might be in the market for a quarterback, is what might Matt Ryan be worth on the trade market? And what would it take to get him away from Atlanta? Considering his value to the Falcons, not only on the field, but financially as well. But first, Nick, how you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty well. Watched that Falcons game this morning with my coffee, so I'm up and at it. Man, you guys, the cardiac birds, it's unbelievable. Cordell Patterson had a funny interview afterwards, and he's quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the league, man. He's helping me a lot in fantasy, but that helps a lot. But man, good win. This team has a lot of work to do, and I know that some people will discredit the win because it's Trevor Siemian. I mean, I get it. Trevor Siemian's not a very good quarterback.
Yeah, then how come they were a touchdown favorite? We knew that going in.
Saints got a really good defense. Dennis Allen needs to be a head coach somewhere next year. He's been a fantastic there. But you guys got the win. There's no such thing as an easy win in the NFL. Just ask Josh Allen, who just lost 6-9 to the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence getting hurt. So you got to take everyone you can get. And now you were right there in that playoff hunt. So who would have thought after that week 1 game?
Yep. Some people coming into the chat want to say hello. Dave, first one in on YouTube. Our Facebook folks should be rolling in here pretty soon. It takes a little bit longer for them to come in. Michael, welcome. Says, hey, finally caught you live. Well, we appreciate you being here. So if you have any questions, hit us up. And Luke, welcome. Welcome in. Good to see you again, my friend. And Michael asked early right off the bat, wasn't he the one who was a QB when they beat the Bucs, or am I mistaken?
You're not wrong, but I am a Broncos fan and cover the Broncos, so I've seen a lot of Trevor Siemian, and I know what Trevor Siemian is as a quarterback. So, I mean, yes, they beat the Buccaneers, which is hats off, and it's. I mean, you and I could play quarterback in the Superdome, and that would be a tough place for another team to win, because that's a tough venue to win in, and that's a great defense. They got plenty of playmakers and an incredible offensive line. I mean, I feel like people don't talk enough about how good that Saints offensive line is. And you guys got the win. So Trevor Siemian, he had a QBR of like 19 in this game or something, which is not great. 18.5, yeah, pretty good.
And the other part of that, like I said, we knew who the quarterback was going to be going into the week, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't a big surprise. Vegas had the Saints a 6-point favorite at home. That was the biggest swing one way or the other in a Falcons game this year. Through 8 games, that was the biggest margin of spread until this week. So the Falcons aren't getting a lot of credit for that win against the Saints just yet, because there's a lot of money on the Dallas Cowboys, or at least that's where the favorites is. They're 9-point road dogs, despite being a 3-1 road team this year. Can't win a Mercedes-Benz, but the Falcons have been pretty good on the road. We can get into that a little bit later as I start getting into the corporatism of new stadiums and how you price out fans and kind of ruin the game day atmosphere. But going into this, I said it felt a little bit like Steve Sanders says, need to stop talking the Matt Ryan trade talk. There's no one out there that can step into a spot and do near as good. Good grief. And for me, Steve, this one will probably help shut that down for you, because there's questions being asked. There's other teams that ask, hey, what can we get for Matt Ryan? So this isn't just saying, as a Falcon pod saying, what could we get for Matt Ryan? This is other teams and other places. I work around with a lot of teams in the NFL, and they're asking, hey, what would it take to get Matt Ryan? And we have people come in all the time and ask that question, and we'll probably throw a little bit of cold water on that talk, because when we get to there. So hang tight. It's not quite what you expect when we get into this one.
Yeah.
But, yes, Trevor Siemian was a quarterback that beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you can beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can beat the Atlanta Falcons. What I liked going into this one, and, hopefully, I got my Braves hat sitting back here. That's probably going to be there. And I got my Braves World Champions hat sitting upstairs too. So it felt like just a collective sigh of relief. I mean, there's jubilation. But the Falcons tried to falcon this game up several times during this game, from Cordell Patterson dropping a fumble, from the second touchdown in the fourth quarter from the Saints. They didn't even have to run an offensive play. You're like, personal foul on the kickoff. pass interference, personal foul. They're on the 10. They haven't gained a yard from scrimmage, and then Mike Davis going in on the game winning drive to go fumbles the ball. I'm like, these are the Falconist of Falcon and things that we're used to seeing, but the Falcons found a way to win. Let's give them some credit for that.
Yeah, no, they definitely found a way to win. This is a team that Matt Ryan played a heck of a game. Cordell Patterson in the pass game had a heck of a game. And there was another wide receiver who had a pretty solid game as well.
Olamide Zaccheaus had a solid day, and Russell Gage had a couple big catches. Tajik Sharp had a couple big catches too. Hayden Hurst had a big first down catch.
Yep.
It was spread around. They couldn't run the ball worth a lick.
That's the one. And that's the biggest, not the biggest takeaway, but like if you want to be able to ice a game away, what were the Falcons up at one point? They were up by a bunch, and they could not ice the game away or melt that clock out, because when you're running for 1.4 yards a rush, it's going to be hard because then you have to put the ball in the air and the clock stops. It takes longer to get it going. So it's and there was like a 4th and 1 early in the game too, where you lost 2 yards because Mike Davis couldn't pick it up and the interior offensive line was blown up. And I know the Saints,
Mike Davis didn't pick it up. I wouldn't say couldn't. That's the kind of thing that
he was hitting the backfield. I mean,
he's always hitting the backfield. That's the point. It's like, I'd love to see Mike Davis not, when I was scouting the Cowboys before the Broncos game, watching Ezekiel Elliott, I was so jealous. I was like, I want to see Mike Davis be able to kind of mosey up to the line of scrimmage, look around a little bit because he's got time, and then say, okay, I'll take that hole over here. Oh, no, looks like someone's over there. I'm going to take this one instead. The amount of time he has to make those decisions is insane. Meanwhile, someone's meeting Mike Davis at the ball when Matt Ryan's handing it off almost every play. It's like, Mike Davis gets some stick, but what is Mike Davis supposed to do when the first person he has to dodge is already 3 yards deep in the Atlanta backfield? It's painful.
There's a good rushing statistic that's yards over expected, and I would guess that Mike Davis's yards would not be, the rate of yards over expected would not be very high because he's not getting a lot of space because the offensive line is getting blown up immediately. Some of that might be teams don't really respect Matt Ryan on the edge as far as a run threat. You're talking about the Cowboys. I mean, you have to respect Dak out the side. But, I mean, it's really hard to ice a game when you're running for 1.4 yards a carry.
Yeah, and going in, I'm going to say hello to some more folks in the chat that are starting to roll in. Hit those like buttons, hit the share buttons. Let's get some more people in here. We're here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And it's starting to gain some momentum. So, Samuel, that looks like a new name to me. So I don't remember seeing you come in here. If you have, and I don't remember, I apologize. Hopefully remember that soon. But Samuel says the amount of adversity the Dirty Birds have faced since training camp has shaped this team into a well-oiled physical unit. Matt Ryan's a grown man with 2 unicorns and Smith's awesome play calling. Man, that is as positive as you will ever see an Atlanta Falcon fan. I love it, Samuel. I absolutely love it. And who he speaks of, in my opinion, he one of the unicorns is obvious. That's what he's been calling is Kyle Pitts. But the other one, it's got to be Cordell Patterson.
Dude, I love Cordell Patterson.
It's got to be Cordell Patterson. He's just, we've talked about Cordell Stewart being the original Slash. His nickname was Slash with the Steelers. He came out as a quarterback from Colorado and played some receiver. He played all over the place. But the Falcons have their own Slash. And Cordell Patterson's that guy.
Yeah, I feel like I watched a good bit of Tennessee offense last year just because I was a big fan of the 12 personnel that they love to use. And I feel like Cordell Patterson is almost taking that Jonnu Smith role from the Falcons as far as the type of routes that he's running. Now, granted, it's out of the backfield versus, H-back / Y tight end kind of position. But still, I mean, he is Arthur Smith has found a way to adapt and use him in the pass game. And Patterson struggled in the ground game on this one. But what did he have? Like almost 80 yards of receiving? I mean, it's beautiful. And I'd rather have that kind of guy.
I thought he was in the 120s, honestly.
Cordell Patterson.
Patterson was
136. Oh, my. Or 126.
Yeah, 6 catches for 126 yards. They couldn't run their way out of a wet paper bag because that wet paper bag was smothering them in the backfield. They only had 34 yards rushing total, but 343 yards passing. And Matt Ryan named NFC Offensive Player of the Week for his efforts, and he had some help. He had some help from his friends, without a doubt. Specifically, Mr. Patterson.
And this is something we talk about with like Teddy Bridgewater being a quarterback. This is a game where I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater wins, because I think he needs to be able to function with the run game as complementary. Matt Ryan is still the type of quarterback, even at his age, even if with his decreased or his arm talent diminishing somewhat as far as velocity, he can still run not a multifunctional offense, but a very limited offense, because the ground game was taken out at the knees, and they got it done and still put up a lot of points. I mean, Matt Ryan was 23 for 30, 343 yards, 11.4 yards for attempt. So this isn't a dink or dunk either.
No,
and
the good thing about Matt Ryan was arm strength was never his plus.
Yeah.
That was never his tool. You talk about a guy like Brett Favre or John Elway, guys like that. They almost have to learn how to become quarterbacks because their arms were so good.
Yeah.
But once that starts to go, then you have to learn how to play quarterback a little bit more. And to his credit, John Elway became better for it down the line. But Matt Ryan has never been all about the tools. I've said before, I kind of called him a Peyton Manning, I'm getting all my Mannings confused now in my old age, a Peyton Manning light. I'm like, and at the end of his career, his numbers are going to be similar, except for those Super Bowl wins that Peyton was able to get. I want to look through the chat here again real quick, because we've got a couple new folks coming in and some questions coming in. Luke says, I believe we'll go up against Dallas. We just can't let happen last year happen again. So, there's people that want to discredit the Atlanta Falcons. You're 4-4, and I've said this a zillion times. Until you can beat the teams, they beat some bad teams to get their 3 wins. They lost to a team in Washington they shouldn't have. This team could be 6-2, but after consecutive 0-7, 1-6, 1-7 starts, let's give these guys some credit for winning games they would have lost last year, including last year's Dallas Cowboys game, which was just one of those statistically impossible games to lose, and you've kept finding ways to lose them. Yeah. So again, I'm going to give Arthur Smith and his staff, and I'm going to give Dean Pease, the defensive coordinator, credit. I'm going to give Matt Ryan credit. I'm going to give all of these guys that are coming in, Grady Jarrett on defense, Deion Jones, AJ Tyrell, for flipping the mentality a little bit. We can do this. We can find ways to win instead of finding ways to always lose. And if you're a Falcons fan, it's the hope that kills you, right? But it's nice, when you're sitting there and it's 24-6 and the first goal goes in. Every Falcons fan on earth had the same 3 words. 4 words. Here we go again. Here we go again. Oh, God. Here we go again. Here we go again. Oh, God. Here we go again. I was at baseball, so I'm texting my friend. I'm like, are we going to Falcon this up? He's like, yep. He goes, I bet my life we lose this game. Well, they did lose it, but then they came back and won it, and good for them. Ray Falcon, appreciate you. That is not a new name. I remember Ray. Mm-hmm. Ray, welcome back. Appreciate you being here. Do we think we go for Odell? I think Odell's number, if you were to claim him, correct me on this one, maybe if you put in a claim for him, was going to be $7.5 million.
You're correct, but he did go through.
But he cleared waivers, so now you can sign him for a league minimum, right?
Yes, but it sounds like he is on I want to go to an elite team or not.
Yeah, sure. So. But Ray asked, do you think you go for Odell? You certainly make the phone call, without a doubt. You want to come in here and you've got 9 games left. You want to come in here and catch 100 passes in 9 games? Maybe make a playoff run for Matt Ryan. Keep the double teams off you with Kyle Pitts over there. Let Russell Gage work in the slot.
Yeah.
You absolutely make the phone call. And now it would be affordable, but they won't be able to pay him anywhere near what someone else will be able to pay him. They'd have to pay him in, I think Chick-fil-A coupons or something. So that would be tough.
Yeah.
Sam asked again, why do people keep underestimating Matt's arm? It's not super strong by NFL standards. It's good enough.
Yeah.
It's good enough. And it was never, if you compare him to some of the rocket arms, if you put up his best throws against Matthew Stafford's best throws, they're going to look very, very different in the way that the ball comes out. Matthew Stafford has an elite arm. Matt Ryan has an NFL arm. It's good enough.
A B.
Yeah, it's good enough. But it was never, if Matthew Stafford loses arm strength and starts losing velocity, it's going to affect him much more dramatically than it will someone like Matt Ryan. That's the point we're trying to make.
Now, there is a point, though, where the arm talent, if it starts diminishing enough, even if he never had elite arm talent, it can be an issue. And I say that from watching Peyton Manning that last year throw
Well,
lollipops
and
constantly.
that's one of the questions around Roethlisberger right now too, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and he did have a pretty damn good arm. It was really more like the frame and how hard he was to bring down. That was the lead trait there. But yeah, no, Matt Ryan's playing incredible football, and it makes me sad. And if I was the Falcons, I would do everything I could to get a run game with him because I mean his MVP season that was that Kyle Shanahan run game off of him, and I think he could be incredible if you could play off of that. But the Falcons run game right now is the offensive line isn't getting done. We were talking Falcons versus Broncos offensive line, head to head. Falcons probably have a little bit more talent, but right now the Broncos on the ground game are vastly getting it done more than what I've seen from the Falcons.
I'd look at it the other way. I look at it the other way. If we're looking at Broncos, and we got several Broncos fans and Falcons fans in here, I'll go across the line real quick. I think Jake Matthews versus Garrett Bowles is a push. I think both of them high draft picks on big money and underperforming compared to how much they're being paid. Jake Matthews especially. Left guard, Dalton Reisner hasn't been good, but Jalen Mayfield's been really bad. At best you say he's been okay, but across the board, I'll give that one to left guard. Center, Hennessy, I'd take Hennessy probably over Cushenberry right now, but neither one of them is a strength. Right tackle, right guard, Lindstrom is far and above playing better than Glasgow was, Graham Glasgow. Lindstrom's been terrific. Right tackle, both have been bad. I think McGarry's probably been a little worse than Bobby Massey through the course. But the difference to me was people expected the offensive line to be a strength of the Denver Broncos unit, not a strength of the Falcons. The Falcons' offensive line was just to be, can we open enough holes and not get our quarterback killed? So the fact that it's even a comparison is an indictment on where the Broncos are right now or have been through the portion of this year and why they were eking along at 500 and the Falcons playing above possibly where we thought they were, why they're surprising at 500.
Yeah. Some of it might be partially Matt Ryan too. Matt Ryan's a good job of getting rid of the ball quickly, and Teddy Bridgewater, I think, has, despite the offensive line not being the best, one of the longest snap to throws in the NFL, a little bit greedy in the pocket, but man, let's talk a little Matt Ryan too, man. I am so impressed with him. He deserves a chance to be, he's not going to be in the MVP conversation really, but I mean, maybe borderline Pro Bowl because again, no run game to speak of. The wide receiver talent in Atlanta right now is a bunch of guys that, didn't make it on other squads or considered wide receiver 3s or 4s on a lot of teams.
Number 3 is the best.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, because Russell Gage was a number 3 last year, should have been a number 2 this year, and he hadn't played. Yeah.
He hadn't even been playing. So you haven't gotten anything out of Ridley this year. You haven't got anything out of Gage this year. So you just lost your top 3 receivers from last season.
Yep.
You bring in Kyle Pitts. Okay. He's really good. Nice.
Yep. Really good.
Then what?
Cordell Patterson is the next one, but
exactly.
It's none of your receivers, actually. So hard to run the football and then not really dynamic receivers on the perimeter. It makes it tough. And he's playing as good as anybody could even possibly expect for what's around him. And hats off to Arthur Smith, too, for maximizing and putting him in a position and meshing what Matt Ryan does well with what's working. So, I mean, I'm really impressed with him. I'm also really impressed with Pease with how devoid of talent that Falcons front 7 is. But that's a different conversation. Yeah,
no, for Matt Ryan, I said coming in, if Arthur Smith can do this with, I always want to call him Ryan Tannehill.
It's Ryan Tannehill.
It is Ryan Tannehill. Steve Tannehill was a South Carolina quarterback from like the late 80s, early 90s. Ryan Tannehill, if he can turn Ryan Tannehill into a top 5 quarterback on paper, Ryan Tannehill is nowhere near the quarterback that Matt Ryan is.
No.
Now Tannehill's got more tools around him. They're better across the board on offense. Yeah. But Matt Ryan should be able to paper over some cracks based on his ability. And he still gets stick for, not having won a Super Bowl. And I'm like, someone's like, well, let me know when he wins a Super Bowl. And I'm like, if that's your take on Matt Ryan, go root for somebody else because you've never rooted for an Atlanta Falcon who has helped his team win a Super Bowl with the Falcons. Not ever, not in history, ever. Yeah. It's not happened. So go find somebody else to root for. If you can't like Matt Ryan because he hasn't, if that's your sole reason why he hasn't won a Super Bowl, I don't want to hear it. Come up with something else. There's plenty of reasons to be critical of Matt Ryan. That ain't it. Yeah. Ray came in here a little bit, and I'm assuming this means with the fourth quarter leads.
Yeah.
Can you tell us why we keep doing this with Mike Smith, Dan Quinn, and now Arthur Smith? We're always doing it. I lay this back at the feet of Thomas Dimitroff. When you are either not investing in the lines of scrimmage or investing poorly in the lines of scrimmage, if you are weak on the lines, it is hard to hold and kill games. So it's hard to hold a lead and kill games. And if you can't stop any on defense, then if I can't grind the ball out and keep the ball away from you, and then if I can't stop you in the fourth quarter, I'm susceptible to giving up big leads. For me, it started with Dimitroff giving up 5 picks for Julio Jones as his first move after the Packers hung 50 on the Falcons in the playoffs.
Yep.
Didn't force a team to punt, give up 50 points in the playoffs, and your move is to give up 5 picks for a wide receiver. That tells me all I need to know about your team building philosophy and why it's going to fail.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. The only time I would give up that level of capital for a player, a rookie, would be a quarterback, and it's Julio Jones. I mean, you hit that as possibly as well as you could for what the position was. But still, I mean,
but it played out perfectly. 2 years later, the Falcons are in the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. They have a lead. Julio has about 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. They can't hold the lead and lose a game.
Yep. No, and it's that's
if I had 3 first-round picks and 2/3 sitting on the lines of scrimmage in that game, I might have been better off.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. And honestly, it's still an issue here. You talk about the Falcons having a lead. What ices a game? And when you have a lead like this, it's a run game and it's pass rushers.
First downs.
First downs, yep, run game.
First downs and 4-man pressure.
Yep, and you don't have the horses on the front. I was going over, and I know that it's not the end-all, be-all, these Pro Football Focus grades at all, but it's good for it's a puzzle piece. All data in football is a puzzle piece because football's so interconnected. Everything, it takes guys all working in harmony. You don't know the plays, et cetera, et cetera. So data pieces are puzzle pieces. And I'm looking at the Falcons front 7 here, and I see 2 players in the Falcons
maybe
front
3.
7.
If you go front 7, you can probably come up with 3.
3 out of a listing of 12 guys that were a grade above a grade 60, which is just dreadful. You don't have the horses up front.
No, if you're looking at the Falcons, and I'm a little back and forth on linebackers with Foyo Oluokun and Deion Jones. They rack up numbers, but not necessarily plays, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're going to say, oh, these guys had 15 tackles each, but I don't really remember them. I don't remember them making plays that stood out. Every once in a while, they'll come on a delayed blitz or something, but that's their job. They do their job really well, which is to they're smaller, they're fast, work laterally, and make sure that 4-yard gains don't turn into 8-yard gains or more. And they're very, very good at that. So if you're looking at a bend but don't break type of defense, those 2 linebackers are really good at their jobs, but they're not making difference-making plays a lot during the course of the game relative to the number of tackles that they have.
Yeah, tackles can be a really hollow stat, right? It's just that's an accumulation stat. But you know who is incredible on that Falcons defense? AJ Tyrell. Playing as good as cornerback as the only one right now that I would say is obviously definitively better is Jalen Ramsey for the level of their playing. And I know that the Falcons are running a lot of cover 2. So AJ Terrell's not really being put in a position to get beat vertically with that kind of defensive scheme. But he's still playing phenomenal level.
Yeah.
Thank
God.
God.
I'm not worried too much about him vertically after watching him reel in Alvin Kamara on about 3 steps and shove him out of bounds. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It was a play that didn't count in the stats because it was called back for a holding, but Kamara got loose and AJ just reeled him in and took that out. And you start wondering a little bit. It's like, when these 4 and 5 wide receiver sets, are they just, I'll go somewhere else. The Falcons are so weak in other positions that, there's 4 other options I've got out there. I don't need to test AJ Terrell, but that's not the case. He's actually, they're going after him, not the way they're going after Fabian Moreau, but they're going after him and he's making plays. He's still making plays out there.
Yeah, no, he has been extremely impressive, and thank you guys very much for taking him because he was who the Raiders wanted, and the Raiders ended up taking Damon Arnett, who they just released because he's a fool, I guess is the word I'll use. But yeah, no, AJ Terrell has been incredible. He's a building block there. Got to get work on that front 7, but Pease right now I think is squeezing every ounce of juice he can out of that defense, and here we are. Good play, and also shout out.
They're up from 32 in pass defense to I think around 15 or 16.
Yeah.
They were 25th, 26th overall in total defense up into the teens. Yeah, that's a good job. Nathan, welcome in. Says, are we able to send stars here? Not yet. Working on it. I've applied. And if we can, I haven't figured it. Sometimes trying to find all that stuff can be a little hard, but I don't think we can yet. But I appreciate you appreciate the thought. We should
thanks,
be able to do that on Facebook here soon. I think I might have to get to 10,000 follows on Facebook, which is actually easier than getting to the 1,000 on YouTube. So, which reminds me, as you're watching, like, follow, and share. Hit those buttons. That's how we can help monetize. That's how we can help monetize this channel. Because right now we'll do it for the love anyway. But it'll be nice if we can pour more resources into doing these type of things, including our time. If we can turn it into a little bit of revenue.
Yeah.
And there's a new name too. C. Beeston. Morning, fellas. Good morning. I don't remember that seeing that name before, so welcome. Appreciate you coming in. Eric has a comment here also. He says, I honestly like Matt Ryan against any defense since he was able to push us past the Saints with no number one receiver and no run game. I'm willing to call Kyle Pitts a number one receiver.
Yeah.
Whether he lines up inside or outside, and lately, honestly, he's been lining up more outside than inside. When it comes time to his second contract, they're probably going to call him a wide receiver.
He's going to argue for that. Yeah,
his agent's going to call him a wide receiver, especially if they slap a franchise tag on him and do an average of the 5 highest paid players at his position. But after that, it's patchwork. Cordell Patterson is playing like a number one wherever you put him. Calvin Ridley is out. He's been absent for pretty much the entire season. 243 yards total through 8 or 9 games. Don't know if or when he's going to come back. Russell Gage was a solid number 2.5 last year, about 800 yards. This was only his second real game after an ankle injury had limited him from the very beginning. So Hayden Hurst has been fairly subpar. The running game, the offensive line is patchwork at best. I think he's faced the 8th most pressures in the NFL this year.
That's crazy.
But he's not being sacked at that rate, and he's still putting up some pretty the Tampa Bay anomaly aside.
Yeah.
He's done really well. And then, where I wonder about this, the two times where the Falcons were just absolutely bullied in the trenches were the Philadelphia Eagles and the Carolina Panthers. And when that happened, Matt Ryan and the Falcons had no chance. They had no answers and no chance. So as the offensive line will play better, we'll see much more from Matt Ryan in this offense.
Yeah, and honestly, just speaking for a Broncos fan, if Matt Ryan became available, which I don't think he will given his contract, but I would be very interested. Obviously, I'm calling on Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson first, but the next guy on that list for me would be Matt Ryan, and I have no idea what the Falcons would. I don't think they would be interested in trading him, given what it does for them financially. They're not a team like the Broncos right now that have buco bucks in terms of cap room, where they can, like, the Broncos are at a point where they can even eat dead money to trade a guy and get extra capital. Hello, Von Miller. But the Falcons aren't there right now. But I mean, I would be, talking a first and a second round pick and maybe even a future 2 with that. That's even with only 4 years left of his career, that kind of thing. That's the level of quarterback he is right now, and he's still playing at that level.
Yeah, and the Falcons knocking on the door at on a playoff. They're in a playoff spot right now. That makes Matt Ryan untouchable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Flat out. If they were 3-5, 2-6 right now, then you would entertain the offer. But the problem is Matt Ryan's dead cap number is so bad if you were to trade him that it would actually do more harm to your ability to rebuild than if you just kept him and benched him and just paid him all that money. So I don't think Matt Ryan's going anywhere this year. This year, obviously. Next year, no. 2023 would be the first time that Matt Ryan, I think, would have a chance of playing in a different uniform, because and Dirk came in here, and I saw this one, and it's a new name for me also. It looks like Dirk's an Alabama fan.
Roll Tide.
Yep, need to keep sending some of those big SEC boys. I said Clemson's been good to the Falcons. I'd like to get a couple of those Georgia defenders, and you can't ever go wrong with getting some more Crimson Tide members out there too. So the Falcons have a better record than the Panthers to end the regular season. My gut says yes. I'd have to look at the schedule to be sure, but I think the Falcons are a better overall team, despite the fact that they got their butts whipped last week. I think they're better than the Panthers right now. That was a bad matchup and a bad day, and then the Panthers go and revert back to norm. I think I would say yes. Yes. Appreciate the comment.
Yeah, thanks, Dirk. The Falcons have a far and away better quarterback. Darnold has an incomplete fracture, whatever that means. So he's going to be out for a bit. We don't really know.
And they posted that. I was like, that's just too easy. And of course, the first
10,000
comment I saw in Twitter was, "You can't even complete a fracture." I'm like, yeah, it's.
Yep.
I was like, that was too easy. I wasn't going to get onto that one.
I honestly felt pity for him on that one. No, Matt Ryan is much better than Darnold and probably much better than PJ Walker. Who knows? I mean, I haven't seen enough PJ Walker.
There's no probably there. Come on.
Yeah. Okay,
come on.
Right. Yeah. I as a scientist, I'm always very careful.
Yeah, I want to see. Let me see the data.
Yeah, I want to see it
as
first.
a scientist, he's still up on the shelf for a reason. That potion's not very good.
He was really good in the XFL, right? Or the AAF. So PJ Walker, that's the big thing. I love Carolina's defense. They're one of the youngest defenses in the NFL, but they have first-round talent across the field. But Matt Ryan is so much better than anything the Falcons have, and both teams have not good offensive lines. So that's one where you lean the quarterback, and that's far and away Matt Ryan. So I'd go with the Falcons as well.
So the Panthers are tied to Darnold for one more season financially, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So they didn't give up a ton to get him, not like the Jets. I think they gave up a second, and then surprisingly, they picked up his option. I was surprised they did that so fast. I'm like, why don't you kick the tires a little bit? Unless there's a deadline. I don't know when the deadline is.
Yep,
okay,
there is. It's before this season, so you have to do it.
Okay, then you didn't have a whole lot of choice. Okay, thank you. Yep. I missed out on some of the nuances of those things after covering college football for so long. So appreciate it.
Just changed too. Now it used to be only guaranteed for injury, and now it's fully guaranteed no matter what. So it used to be a lot more easy for the team to be like, oh, well, we exercise.
We'll pick up your option, but we're going to cut you anyway.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Not anymore. So they're stuck with him, and it's not a good position.
But 1 year, which means they could go get a quarterback. You know, we've heard their name with Deshaun Watson. You know, a lot. Is that something that they're willing to do? The problem is Sam Darnold's done as being able to get anything back for him. He's now in the Josh Rosen category. His next move. You know, you're able to trade him. The Cardinals were able to trade Rosen for a second, and then after that, you're able to get him off waiver wires, and that's where Darnold will be. So their ability to flip him for anything is pretty much done.
Yeah,
but that doesn't preclude them from going after a quarterback. I've said this since he was in college, though. I don't know that anybody would see him as the long-term answer at quarterback, but they keep doing it. So you never know. Oh man, see, Dick, I went to Auburn, but I grew up in Atlanta, so I didn't grow up in that Auburn, Alabama stuff. So hey, I'm cool with Alabama, but if we're gonna root for Chelsea together, we can be boys. We can be boys all the time.
Absolutely. I wanted to give a shout out to Vaughns as well. Player had that big strip sack here. I know that the Falcons worked.
James Vaughters.
Yes, excuse me, Vaughters. From I remember him. I think he went to Stanford. He hopped around the league for a while. He's been around here for a bit. But big play from him and very good job by the Falcons GM, who's Fontenot, for finding some of those guys, bringing them up and making an impact out there.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Vaughters. We've been on here before. We only do this once a week, but since we've been doing this, I have been clamoring for more size on the defensive line. Mm-hmm. If you're going to run a 3-4, you can't have a lean 300-pounder Tyler Davison in there playing out of position. Yeah. So Anthony Rush comes in. Him and Vaughters were signed from the practice squad and flex to this game. Vaughters was the previous week, so he's now on the active roster. And then Rush, after this showing, he didn't look 6'5", 350 to me. He more looked like 6'2", 360 to me, rounder. But he got it done. Oh, God, did the Falcons need that size in the middle of that defense? And he was getting an interior push. He was getting penetration, and he was holding his ground. He was everything that I was crying out for. And maybe he wasn't in game shape. I'm not going to question Dean Pease on this. He's going to – if an idiot like me can see it, he can see it. They need more size on the defensive line. They got it. And I hope he keeps playing this well.
Yeah, for sure. And whatever happened to Deadrin Senat? I know that he was like a second or third round pick. I think you guys might have just waived him.
Yeah, he was on IR. He's played like 2 games, I think, in 3 years. Had a decent rookie season in 2018.
Yeah, I remember him being a good, solid rookie.
Yeah, and then hasn't done anything since. So that is a lost cause. Not lost cause, but that's lost. That was a lost pick.
Yeah.
Use the word bust. It's that one I think is gone. But if you can get Anthony Rush to come in here and do the things that you drafted him for, so be it. You got what you needed. And then, because I've said, Jordan Davis, I would take him if Jordan Davis of the Georgia Bulldogs was on the Atlanta Falcons roster right now, he'd start right now. I would take him right out of the Georgia Bulldogs and drop him right in the middle of that defense, and he would be an immediate starter. He could give up his eligibility tomorrow, come sign with the Falcons, and he'd be a starter tomorrow. So having that size and rush was certainly a big help. And him and Bauders, 2 practice squad guys, came in and helped make a big difference in that game.
Yeah, totally. Not to get too far down the draft talk, but I do love me some Jordan Davis. I don't think he's the best defensive lineman they have there in Georgia. They have a sophomore, Jalen Carter. Oh, he looks like a potential top 10 pick next year. But anyway, that's for a future talk. Just shout out Jalen
before I get you out of here, let's talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys. So
for sure.
The Dallas Cowboys were flying high, 6-1, 7-1. I don't think they've had their bye week. I know the one part was important. Denver had lost 4 in a row, picked up a nice win against Washington, and then they're going to the Cowboys as a big underdog. Dak Prescott's coming back. Coach is about to get fired in Denver. Big underdog, road dog. And what happened as maybe a prelude to what the Falcons can do this week?
Man, it's going to be very hard for the Falcons because the Broncos finally opened up the floodgates in the rushing attack, and that made everything go. It really shortened the game, and the Broncos also got after Dak Prescott at a clip that we haven't seen this season. I'm not sure if Terrence Steele is going to be starting for them again at left tackle. Going from Tyron Smith to Terrence Steele was a huge difference maker. I think Terrence Steele gave up 12 pressures in one game, which is like hard to do. I think you remember the game. You would definitely remember. It was the Adrian Claiborne 4-sack game versus Chaz Green at left tackle.
I didn't remember the names. I just remembered that they put a turnstile at one of the tackle positions, and that poor guy had the worst game I've ever seen in the NFL.
Chaz Green versus my Iowa Hawkeye Adrian Claiborne. That's
why I remember the game. I remember the teams, but I couldn't remember the names.
Yes, but that's what it reminded me of. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case again this week. You don't even truly need a alpha difference maker to take advantage of a bad tackle like that, like Terrence Steele was there. I think he only found out Thursday that he was going to be starting at left tackle. So he was destined to fail. But the biggest one for me is the Broncos ran the ball so efficiently versus the Falcons. 190 yards or something between the two backs. If you can do that, and I think this Dallas team is vulnerable there. They're not elite in the trenches as far as run stuff, and they got athleticism at the second level, but they're not elite at the point of attack.
They're kind of a boom and bust defense, though, because if you look at by the numbers, their run defense was actually okay, but they gave up a lot in the passing yards. That's kind of a Dan Quinn thing. He's not afraid to take some chances. And the Dan Quinn, it was interesting because, the 2 coordinators are Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn, former Falcons head coach, are starting to get sniffs around for head coaching jobs again. And Denver just went in and lit them up, both sides of the ball, pitched a shutout through 56 minutes, and then, ran the ball right down their throats and just demolished them. So, I actually have fond memories for Dan Quinn for the most part as a Falcons head coach. My animosity towards some of those painful losses still is almost entirely directed at the general manager.
Yeah, no, totally. Rightfully so. This is a team they're going to have to figure it out. And as long as Matt Ryan, Dak Prescott had a bad game. If Dak Prescott comes out flat again and Matt Ryan's dealing, even if your run game is not working, Matt Ryan's a good enough quarterback where you can put it on his shoulders and you can get it done. And I'm really interested to see how Kyle Pitts is used in this game, because I think Micah Parsons is an incredible athlete, sideline to sideline coming downhill. This dude in coverage, not it right now.
You're better off sending, if you want to use Parsons to stop Pitts, you do it by sending him after Matt Ryan.
Yeah,
you do it with the pass rush. Otherwise, that's a mismatch. As good of an athlete as Parsons is, that's not his game. That is not his game. Whoever. Maybe we should talk to Mike Fisher and have him on the show and just talk about who do you use to match up with the 6'6" guy and try and slow him down, because you're not going to do it with one guy. One guy hasn't stopped Kyle Pitts. You're going to have to bracket him somehow.
Yep. No, totally. You're 100% correct. Man, it's Eric Holt coming in saying Claiborne had
Yeah,
6
I was
sacks
going
in
to
that
click on
game.
that one too. Thanks,
Oh,
Eric. Like I said, I just remember the turnstile there, and I remember it was the Cowboys,
yeah.
and I remember it was the Falcons, but I couldn't remember the names. But I do remember, like I said, the revolving door at tackle right there was funny. You almost feel bad for the guy at that point. I mean, he knows. What are you going to say to him? I'm like, thanks for the effort. I mean, you're obviously cut. So yeah, I almost felt bad for him at that point, but I do remember that one, and that's about how bad Steele was against the Broncos on Sunday.
Yeah, it was too bad. Funny story before I get on out of here. Adrian Claiborne, met him a few times in Iowa City, played beer pong against him up in Iowa City. He actually married somebody I went to college with in my class that lived in my dorm. Her sister married Adrian Claiborne, played beer pong against Adrian Claiborne. Big cheater, man. He elbow way over the table. He's 6'4". I was a freshman in college, and he was a senior who just like won the Orange Bowl or something. I don't remember the exact timeline, but big cheater, elbow over the table. He's 6'4", just reaching over it, almost just like Michael Jordan dunking it.
So he's dunking on you.
What are you going to say? Like, oh, that's Adrian Claiborne. You're cheating. No, I'm not that much. I was a little pipsqueak freshman.
Yeah, like I always said, kind of growing up, it's like if I couldn't either whip your ass or outrun you, we were going to be friends. So it's okay, Adrian. You're fine. Well, I'll get the next beer. Let me go get this one. We're not going to make a big deal out of that because, unfortunately, guys that size, well, you could hit them with a 2x4 and you're still going to lose a fight. And you can't outrun them either. Those are scary dudes. We're going to be friends. We're going to be friends. I'm going to stay on your good side.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully I'm staying on your good side.
Any chance here that the Cowboys, before I let you go, were the Cowboys exposed? Or do they have a really bad game and that 9 points is going to seem small when the Falcons come to town against Dallas?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that the Broncos showed that you can get it done with them moving the football if you can run the ball effectively and then the play action and execute on your third downs and give your playmakers a chance. Either way, I'm looking to target those linebackers. Leighton Vander Esch and Micah Parsons are not great in coverage, and you have a tight end and a running back. So you should be able to isolate some matchups in the pass game there. And as far as the defense, can you get after Dak? That's the biggest one. If you can get after Dak, make him uncomfortable, then you got a chance. But that's easier said than done because even with the calf injury he's dealing with right now, he is one elusive son of a gun, and he can make some stuff happen. Just you're curious if his accuracy is as bad as it was against Denver.
And Jay says they were exposed. Here's the thing from my point of view is the Falcons the way they're playing right now, Arthur Smith and Dean Pease, is they're playing everybody close.
Yeah.
It's just the way they're basically saying we're going to do everything we can to make this a close game at the fourth quarter, and then we're going to give ourselves a chance. So the 9 might seem a little high to me, and they can try and grind this game down. It might be a time you want to look at the under also, because the Falcons are going to want to try and grind this thing down, limit the possessions. To be able to do that, though, they're going to have to be able to pick up first downs. So Hayden Hurst is going to be key. The receivers we talked about picking up key third downs, Zacchaeus, Russell Gage, Tajay Sharp, and obviously, Kyle Pitts. But those guys are going to have to step up and make some big third down catches, extend some drives, and try and limit the opportunities and try and grind this down. And then if you come down to the fourth quarter and, it's a one possession game, you like your chances.
Yeah. I mean, any given Sunday, right? If you execute, protect the football, don't have, 7 penalties that you had in this game, but you did have 0 lost turnovers, you got a chance. Luke MC, Falcons are one of those teams who can beat anybody, but can also lose to anyone. And that is the true hallmark of having a good quarterback on a team that's maybe not super great around them, because that to me screams, if Matt Ryan can go unconscious and start hitting it, then you have a chance against anybody. But the hard to do when the team around him is maybe getting pushed around.
Yep. So hopefully the Falcons have gotten some beef in the middle. Anthony Rush is a big help. Vaughters is coming up. Brandon Copeland played well at times off the edge too, an offseason pickup. So AJ Tyrell, we need him to lock somebody down and keep doing that, where you can rotate some help over to the safeties, try and get the running game going. You got a chance in Dallas. You got a chance without a doubt. Nick, I want to say thanks for being here again. It was some fun talk. It was nice having some Dallas right after the Broncos, and when we go and talk Broncos for breakfast tomorrow, Falcons have already played the Eagles, so I can add some when we start previewing Broncos Eagles. Everybody that came in, lots of folks in here. Again, hit that like, subscribe, and share button. Tell a friend. We love y'all. We love you coming in here and having these conversations with us. And, I think, will the Falcons win this? I wouldn't go that far. I think, they're underdogs for a reason, but they've got something in November that we haven't had for a while. Hope. It's the hope that kills. But I feel like the Falcons can win this game. And after the Philadelphia Eagles game, first game of the season, I wasn't sure they were going to beat anybody. So I definitely see progress. And progress, as you always get better, that's a good thing for the Atlanta Falcons. And I think Arthur Smith's doing a really good job with his team. So I will let y'all go. Appreciate you being here. And we will see you next time. Nick, thanks a bunch. And everybody in the chat, appreciate you being here. Have a good day, everybody.
Peace.